my dad passed away. It was a Friday morning, and I got a call from my family that dad passed away and everything's been taken care of. Nothing for you to do. So what did that mean? That meant that his body was okay going to medical science and he was going to be cremated. So I called up Rabbi Zone, and my wife came downstairs and she saw me crying. She wanted, what's going on? I couldn't talk, so I wrote her a note.
Wow.
Dad passed away. So I called Rabbi Zone. I said, what do I do? He says, you don't do anything. You don't sit shit up. You don't rip your clothes. You don't say Kaddish. You go on. Go have a good Shabbos. So later that evening, a very close couple, Rabbi and Rebbitzin, came to visit us that evening. And we're talking, and I told him what Rabbi Zone said about doing this and not saying Kaddish. And the Rebbitzin said, in her very sweet, calm voice, you're not going to say Kaddish for your father? I said, no, not good. She said, you're not going to say Kaddish? She was floored. And that just kept vibrating. And she must have said it 3 or 4 times. So that night we had dinner. And the next day there was a big bar mitzvah at Rabbi Holtzberg's. So I went to my friend's bar mitzvah, and his wife had passed away earlier that year. So he has a son who was getting bar mitzvah and one daughter a little younger. And when I saw him, the two of us just, we lost it. We gave each other a big hug. We cried. And
that was very emotional.
And that was it. Yeah, that was probably one of the most emotional times with the whole process.
Why was it so emotional? Because that was when it hit you that this is what was happening to your father. Yeah, and the loss that you just really suffered. It's compounded.
Right, and his loss also. Right. It was like
wow.
So the next morning, Sunday morning, I woke up, and Hashem put in my mind to find out about the will. I never sold this will. And I told that the will had been changed a few years before, that it was changed so that there would be no burial and that my dad's body would be donated to medical science and then be cremated, and that I would not be part of that process. So I was taken out of being an administrator or executor of the will. My 2 sisters were those 2.
Did they take you out because you were observant, or?
They took me out because I was really pressing not to have this happen. And they knew it was a threat that if he got involved, who knows what would happen. So exit stage left and I was out of the picture, except for Hashem brought me back into the picture. So Sunday morning, I called my sister and I said, I never sold the will. I'd like to see the will. She said, well, I haven't seen it for some time. Why don't I send you a copy? I said, that would be great. Send our other sister a copy also. So I got the will on Monday morning and I'm reading it, and it was prepared in 1984. And in it said my parents should be buried, the estate should pay for the burial. And I could see where I was taken out, but there was nothing in there about cremation.
Wow.
Medical science.
So you think you're
So I called up my wife, and who's an attorney, and I said, I've just read this will. There's nothing in here. And I know legal documents pretty well also because of the things I do in business. So she said, I'm going to act like you're in court, and I'm going to test you on a few questions to actually prepare you maybe. So she did that.
Like what kind of questions?
I don't even remember.
But you mean things that the judge might ask you?
Yes, that they would want to see if I have a case. So she said, you did well. So I called Rabbi Zone and I said, I got the will, and I read to him, and he said, I'm going to test you to see if you could handle this in court. Did the exact same thing. And she already did that. So I had the answers to a lot of the questions. So he was convinced. He goes, okay, let's go find the body.
Why do you think your father didn't change the will to write that he wanted to be cremated and his body donated to science?
Maybe he really didn't want to be cremated and donated to science. Hashem controls everything. So
interesting. Who knows?
Things we forget things. We do things. We forget things. So that piece wasn't there, amended and changed. So all of a sudden, here
you had a leeway, something.
Monday morning, he passed away Friday morning. It's now Monday morning. and we're searching for the body. And Rabbi Zone put together a SWAT team, starting with himself, a gentleman in Philadelphia, Rabbi David Kushner, and he orchestrated the chief for the Hever Kedusha Association in Maryland and the chief rabbi of Maryland, because my sister, although my dad had been living in Philadelphia, my sister moved him to Bethesda so she could take care of him as he got older and better care of him. So he was now in Maryland someplace. So that's why they contacted Philadelphia down to Maryland. So we're all starting to look
for the body.
Body. So Monday night, my wife said, "Why don't you call up your sister and ask her what'd she do and what?" So I called, and it was about 10, and she had already gone to sleep. My brother-in-law said she's already went to sleep, and I said, "Great."
Did she know at that point that you saw that the will did not say that he should be cremated? No.
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't communicate that. I don't think I communicated that. So then I ended up calling back, and my brother-in-law, I said, "Well, do you have any idea what she did with the body?" He goes, "I don't know." And he's a doctor. This is your thing with your sister. It's not, I have nothing to do with it. So any idea what she may have done? She goes, "Well, maybe it went to such and such a place." So I found the phone number. I called up the place. It's a medical place, does this kind of work, and then takes care of the cremation. So I called up, and the woman it sounded like she kind of knew what I was talking about. And she was saying, "I can't tell you anything. There's no information." And I said, "Look, I have information that he's here. If he's here and you're not divulging that, I'll be there in the morning with the police, and we'll find out if he's there or not." 10 minutes later, the owner of the facility calls back, "Mr. Sobolewski, don't worry about it. Your dad's fine. Nothing's been taken care of. Nothing's happened." And this afternoon, a group of rabbis spoke to me, and we had to stop the whole process.
Wow. Who was that?
So that was Rabbi Zone and the chief rabbi in the state of Maryland and the Hever Kedusha. So, but they never called me because that was done Tuesday afternoon. I'm busy still looking for the body.
How did they find it? How did they know where it was? They found it. They did their work.
Wow. It was a SWAT team. It was like, the way the Israelis and the soldiers, we go, when we make up our minds to do things, we get things done. But they forgot to tell me. So I'm busy looking so I'm calling the 10. I found it. 10 o'clock. Oh, we already know about it. We already stopped them.
Wow.
So that was pretty incredible. But we had a short time fuse because we wanted the body buried before Friday afternoon, before Shabbos.
And this was what day? This was already
This was Tuesday night.
Okay.
This was Tuesday night. So in speaking with my sister, I was already driving down to Washington to go to Bethesda to go find out what was going on, to find the body and to figure out how to bring it back. And in speaking with my sister, I was driving. I was on the Bell Parkway, and I literally was stuck in traffic. And my sister called, and she said, "How are you doing?" "Great, great." She said, "What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean, what did I do?" She goes, "What did you do?" I said, "With what?" She goes, "With Dad's body." I said, "I didn't do anything with Dad's body." She goes, "Well, the whole process got stopped. A group of rabbis came in and stopped the process." I said, I couldn't control them. They heard, and so there's silence on the phone. I'm glad that the car was just stopped. So she said, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "I want to bury our father's body. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less." So then there's silence on the phone, and she said, "Okay, you can have the body." And I'm glad I wasn't driving because I probably would have hit something at that point.
Wow.
She said there are two conditions. One, that you don't sue me or anybody in the family. I said, "I'm not interested in suing anybody." And my parents had two burial plots in Philadelphia that were buried near my mother's parents. And then my father's family was buried in another part of the same Roosevelt cemetery. She said, "I'd like to have those burial plots." I said, "No problem. You can have the burial plots."
Wow.
Because I had another idea where I wanted to bury my dad. And it wasn't those burial plots because he didn't want to be buried in those burial plots.
Really?
I think that may have been one of the reasons they didn't get buried was because they didn't want to be in those burial plots.